Hey everyone, today on Reality Check, I'm following on from last week's episode all about the psychology of free-to-play. That show really focused on the role of our finite self-control. So if you haven't seen it yet, hit pause, go watch it, and then come back. I'll wait. Today though, we're going to investigate yet more ways free-to-play exploits our silly brains. And we're going to do that by focusing on arguably the biggest free-to-play game of them all, League of Legends. If I do something nice for you, you may feel compelled to do something nice for me in return. This is the idea of reciprocity, and it could be a major component behind the success of League of Legends and other free-to-play games. A 1971 study carried out at Cornell University, known as the Coca-Cola experiment, demonstrated the power of reciprocity quite beautifully. As often is the case with psychological studies, the test subjects were asked to take part in a sham test. However, as they were patiently passing their time in the waiting area, unbeknownst to them, they were accompanied by a researcher posing as another participant. At some point, the incognito researcher would leave the room, returning a few minutes later with 2 bottles of Coca-Cola, explaining, "Oh, the study leader said I could have one, so I got one for you too." Subsequently, at the end of the day, the insider would then attempt to persuade the test subject to purchase raffle tickets from them, explaining that the more they sold, the more money they would raise. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the people who received the free cola were far more likely to spend money on raffle tickets compared to the control group who received no free cola. Not only that, the gift receivers spent far more money than the value of the cola itself. What is surprising though is when the researchers asked the test subjects to rate how much they liked the gift giver, it turned out that this rating had no impact on how much money they actually spent, indicating that the pressure to reciprocate was the real driving force here. Now, I know a game is quite different from another person, but it's not a giant leap to imagine that the same pressure could apply, especially if you spend tens or even hundreds of hours playing the game. One of the hallmarks of a good competitive free-to-play business model is that you cannot buy items which give you an advantage over other human players. However, what you can buy in League of Legends, for example, are skins for your characters, so-called vanity items. And people do. A lot. Stupid, huh? Well, no, not really. Not if you consider the idea of conspicuous consumption. Now, this is the act of buying things, maybe rare or expensive things, that are not necessary to your life, but are bought in a way that mean other people will notice you made that purchase. The idea was first suggested by economist and sociologist Thorstein Veblen in the late 19th century to describe the new rich social class who emerged as a result of the Second Industrial Revolution. It's the same reason people buy bling or expensive shoes or something in day-to-day life. And in a multiplayer game like League of Legends, people see your champion. So if you've got a rare skin, they're going to notice. Now this also has the potential to make others jealous, which in turn drives more sales, and so on. Finally, let's talk money. Like the vast majority of games supporting a free-to-play business model, if you want to spend money in League of Legends, you need to use their intermediate currency, Riot Points. Now for us, the player, this presents a bit of a problem, as people find it difficult to accurately assess the value of an unfamiliar currency. Part of this issue could be down to the mere exposure effect. This is the broad psychological idea that things which we're familiar with have a higher value to us, simply because we've been exposed to them in the past. So we value our usual familiar currency higher than we would any intermediate currency in a game, simply because we're used to seeing it. This idea of the mere exposure effect being related to increased spending of unfamiliar currencies is not just relevant to the world of free-to-play games though. In fact, it's been argued to help explain why people spend a great deal more money than they usually would when visiting foreign countries. So, how much money have you spent on League of Legends? And what do you make of the ideas of reciprocity, conspicuous consumption, or the mere exposure effect? Let me know all of this in the comments down below, or you can tweet at me at CamFrazRob. Oh, and if you liked this episode, which I made for you, maybe you might like to subscribe on YouTube. Reciprocate? Awesome. Thanks, guys. See you next week.